What is going on, everyone? It's your boy Gsluke here with our round 3 live stream. This time, the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Hopefully, everyone had a solid day today, whether it's your Friday, right? Just enjoying some time, perhaps with family and friends, or over there on the PGA DFS side, where us as a community today, we smashed, right? Whether it was for props, whether it was Showdown, had a few near takedowns in Showdown myself, also profited on both prize picks and over there in Underdog. So it was the holy trifecta in terms of PGA DFS RY. So I'm having a pretty good Friday. I'm heading out after this, so hopefully everyone having a solid Friday yourselves. We've got a little Crown and Coke in the cup. So cheers to everyone out there enjoying yourself on a Friday evening. And let's get after it for tomorrow. We got Jose down there in chat spitting absolute facts, I must say. Says the Patreon pays for itself, boys. Couldn't have said it better myself, especially on days like today, right? James says, hit the like button, get Patreon, win money. It's that simple. Seems like a simple enough process, huh? Completely agree, though. And how is my cat doing? Yeah, speaking of, you may have seen in my single entry for today that I didn't enter a lineup, and that had to do with my cat. My cat ended up having an issue, had a piece of furniture fall on it. In fact, it was my golf bag. Had to take her to the vet, get that figured out. And the one lineup that I had to set this morning was my community contest lineup, which never ended up happening. So that was unfortunate, is what it is. Cat's doing okay. I have to help her out with a few things like getting into the litter box and stuff, which can be a little bit challenging. But hey, it was a $5 loss. I paid a little bit of your rake right here for the contest today. So not too much lost. My main lineups were in. I already entered those before midnight. So it wasn't really the end of the world per se, right? We're doing the same thing for round 3, right? Same kind of contest. Today was won by Bolt Bets. So want to give a shout out to Bolt down there. Somebody I know that watches this live stream. You have a Fat Pat there, right? Finished in second. Who do you have? Hideki, who went off today. Cam Davis, right? I told you guys he was going to go off yesterday. Smalley, another play that we pointed out. A lot of guys from the stream. So, like me, right, going out there, playing a lot of these nuts plays, it paid off for a lot of you down in chat as well. We have Blue BLD over there in third place. Trom BM right here. Subbonis. Gladka, okay. So somebody I really recognize there. SMAC2, he's always in these contests. But a couple new names towards the top of the board, particularly, I'd say 2 through 4. I'm not sure I've seen them before. Maybe it's their first time in the contest, for all I know. So hop in there. Let me get the link, throw it down in chat for you guys. And let's get even more people in here for Saturday. It's a lot of fun. If you guys want your lineups reviewed, by the way, you can just let me know, obviously, your name over there in Draftkings and where you finished. And I'll take a look at your lineup, too. We have some time on these streams to do that. Ricky for the win. I hope so. That'd be pretty cool. How about my boy Luke Donald? Yeah, that was pretty sweet, huh? Going out there, having that showdown rounds and also making the cut. I have to say, from here on out, it's a little bit of gravy, right? Luke Donald, our only objective was to get him to the weekend. So if he makes like another 10 birdies between the last 2 rounds, like 5 apiece, something like that, I think we're going to be really happy about what Luke Donald does this weekend. So yeah, thank you for reminding me. A few plays that really worked out like that. Obviously, Ricky's up there towards the top. Sanjay played pretty well. Hideki, not so much, right? But I've got some Taylor Moore exposure. I've got a bunch of guys, especially value plays. They're up there in like the top 10, top 15 right now. And a few 6 of 6s. Last count, I didn't go through all my lineups. I think I had 9. The last check that I had. So if that held up, maybe I have a few more 6 of 6s now, for all I know. That'd be pretty sweet. What's going on? Antonio says, what's up, Luke? Tee times groupings and pins are out already. Yeah, tee times, it'll be pairs off of hole number 1. So no funny business in terms of threesomes. There's no, holes 1 and holes 10 BS that we have to worry about. Straightforward groupings, and then the pins, perfect. Must have just gone down there. First time in chat, just signed up. Luke, you've been extremely helpful with the free advice. Looking forward to greatness with the paid tools. Yeah, welcome on board, first of all. If you have any questions, Matthew, feel free to reach out, right? I can help you with going through the sheets. A lot of it can be a little bit overwhelming, so I can kind of point out, right, the things to keep an eye on. And make sure you get into Discord, too. Send me a message over there on Patreon, and I'll send you an invite. Do I think Ludwig, right, can keep it going over the weekend? Ludwig, funny name. I know a few friends actually named Ludwig. And do I think he can keep it going? I think so. I don't know if he's going to win the golf tournament, but I would be surprised if he wasn't in contention on Sunday. So So I'll just say that much there. There's the little bit of the DraftKings link, right? That's where you guys got to get in that contest right there. Just mixing up a stiff whiskey for the stream. Well, cheers to that. It's a little bit of Canadian whiskey we've gotten here, but I wish I honestly had a few shots for the stream. I feel like that'd be some fun. Maybe if you guys get to 100 likes on this live stream, okay, we'll do shots for the round 4 stream, right? Saturday is fun. I'm Ubering out with my buddies tomorrow, so we can really have a ruckus time if we need to. So that's on the table. If you guys smash that like button, if you get it to 100, and I'm sure it might take the replay to get it up to 100. If that ends up happening, well, we're doing that tomorrow, okay? Cameron Davis is a god, 10 birdies. Yeah, that was pretty sweet, right? And I think he made an eagle too. Is this the most boring birdie fest in a while? It is. I hate these golf tournaments, Antonio. It feels like there's no variance, right? Like everyone's moving up the board. It's just like how far up the board you can move every day, right? The guys that are going to finish in the top 20 are all going to shoot like -4 or better every single day. It's just like the difference between shooting, -5. Go shooting a 67 or like, a shot of -6, 66. Like, yeah, it's boring as hell. I completely agree, completely empathize. So looking at the scoring from today is actually even easier than round 1. I don't know if I really expected that, right? I thought if anything, you'd play to like the same difficulty, but the pins were absolute cupcakes. You had even more bowls today than what you had in round 1. There were a few pins that were harder. Most notably, hole number 11 was significantly harder today than what it was for round 1. But I mean, look at all these holes that played under par, right? I mean, look at 11, right? Played the hardest of any hole today. Round 1, but yeah, it played a lot easier, right? About 0.11 shots easier. Overall, though, this place is going to get decimated over the weekend, right? They can try and firm it out all they want. They can abstain from going out there and putting a lot of rain on the golf course, a lot of water out there, but it's not going to matter, right? There's going to be some precipitation over the next few days. It's already extremely damp to begin with. And then when we look at the AM forecast tomorrow, there's next to no wind projected. So these guys are going to get after it. I would be surprised if the scoring average was worse than 2 under par. And we're going to go through pins. I guess that's the one X factor that I haven't gone through yet. But assuming that it's a typical Saturday setup where they're going to let guys go after pins, make birdies, we shouldn't really think anything different is going to happen, right? It's going to play easy. Today, you saw the same advantage between the morning and the afternoon. I told you guys we'd see a pretty similar advantage to day 1. It was maybe slightly more severe today, right? It was like a 0.8 shot difference. What was it? Like 0.75 or 0.72 shots there in the first round. So very similar difference, or you had slightly higher winds in the afternoon. You also had the POA greens getting a little bit bumpier there during the PM hours. So no real surprises, right? And I think for round 3, especially with, let's look at a few other forecasts, right? This one, right? Actually pretty low winds the entire day actually for this forecast. But most of them are calling for slightly higher winds in the afternoon. This one, yeah, I mean, in terms of like daylight hours, right? It's obviously higher winds in the afternoon. GFS here, right? Higher in the afternoon. Oh, let's bring up that tab. Okay, let's get to Icon here. Same thing. So if we're going through the 5 major models, right, most of them are looking at this like a very typical slate. So expect to see, once again, a very similar split. Now, I think the one thing that can kind of throw it off, right, would be talent level. So the top end of the board does have some of the better players, right? Like your Rickies, your Cabas, your Aubergs, like a lot of your studs, right? 9, 10K players are up there towards the top of the board, but it's not like we're in a major championship, right? When you're talking about like the top 20, 25 players in the world, you might see a slightly better scoring average in the afternoon, or maybe only like a 0.3, a 0.4 shot difference between the quote unquote waves. That would likely be due to the talent gap difference, right? The guys up top just being better players overall, not being the slapdicks that just hardly made the cut on the number. Not only that, they're playing better, right? There's a reason why they're at the top of the board. So I think that you're still going to see a difference between the AM and the PM conditions, but just know that when you split this by wave tomorrow, right? When you click this button over here on Data Golf, that it might not be 0.8 shots, right? It might be like 0.4, 0.5 shots. Just know that that talent level difference is probably the culprit there, because the conditions look like identical to the first few days, right? A little bit softer in the morning than the afternoon, a little bit lower winds. And, today it's worth noting, right? I told you guys yesterday that you didn't have to only play AM guys, and that was definitely the case, right? Let's look at the top I guess, first like top 6 scorers, right? 2 of them were PM Wave golfers. You had Ricky Fowler, you had Pendrith here, that was a PM Wave golfer. And then you go down just a little bit further, right? Donald, Carl Wan was a PM Wave golfer. Alberg, Colin Morikawa, Keegan Bradley was PM Wave. I believe Danny Willett was PM as well. I know Trevor Cohn, I think SH No was also a PM Wave golfer. There were plenty of AM guys too. Like, don't get me wrong, right? I played a lot more AM guys than PM guys yesterday. But if you only played AM guys, right, you got screwed, right? You didn't play Pendrith. You were never going to be on Taylor Pendrith. You were never going to be on a Ricky Fowler. And I think it's the same thing, right? For round 3 showdown, if it's going to be like a 0.8 shot difference between the 2 waves, again, it might come in a little bit less because of the talent gap. That's still not worth overreacting to, right? Like with your value plays, for sure take the AM guys, right? Like Andrew Landry, complete slapdick that shot -9. He was AM Wave, right? Lauer, I believe, was AM Wave. Kadira was. Malnati, I believe, was an AM Wave golfer. So a lot of the guys that just sucked at golf, right, were guys going off early, but not all of them, right? Don't make it your end all be all. If you see a low-owned play that is hitting the ball well, right, but he happens to be in the PM Wave tomorrow, or happens to be, -7, right, going off towards the middle to, the second half of tee times, don't feel like you have to avoid them. That's the point that I'm making here, right? Was I, heavier on the AM Wave today, right? Yes, right, significantly heavier. I think I had like 9 guys in the PM and I had like 30 guys in the AM Wave, but you're not going to get to these sort of players unless you take that shot. Now, did I play Pendrith or Ricky Fowler? No. Right. So let's get things straight. Right. It's not like I was on those 2 plays, but I at least had the chance to get there. So that's why I like to point that out, go through some of these weather edges is, there is tangible evidence to going out there and playing weather edges, especially if you're like a single entry or like a smaller field contest where you're not trying to hit the nuts, where it doesn't really matter if you finish in first place. If you're playing in a large field GPP, your goal is a lot different, right? You need to finish in that top 5, right? That's where all the ROI, all the expected EV comes in, and some of those large field contests. And today you had to have PM round 1, right? Just for what it's worth, just to show you guys this. You also had to have some of the guys from the unadvantageous wave, because let's see, right? Just to give you a few examples of guys that went off. Andrew Lane, this is, okay, that's for round 2. I was going to say, there's no way that's right. Okay. All right, well, I guess we can't get the round 1 scores on there, right? It's only doing it for today down there. But in round 1, you had plenty of guys in the PM Wave that went off as well, right? I know Taylor Moore, right, was a PM Wave golfer. You had a few other guys that shot like -6, -7 in round 1 that were PM Wave golfers. So just, I point that out to show you that like the weather edge exists, but it's really not the end all be all. You shouldn't be going like too crazy on it. Like you shouldn't be like, oh, well, guys, PM Wave can't play them now. I think that's I don't know. If the guy's a good enough play the damn guy. That's all I got to say about it. You the man? No, you're the man, Doc. Love the content. Appreciate you, bro. Justin says, what's up? We went $137 off of Mahomes and Kelsey. Haven't been that profitable in DFS the last few entries. Any must-haves? So yeah, I would say if you're doing it on an entry-by-entry basis, yeah, DFS, you're going to lose a lot more than you win. It's not like props, right, where it's a lot more sustainable, like you're in complete control of your bankroll. I'll say just hit me up on Twitter if you need to in terms of that, but like enter 20 lineups. That would be my main thing. Like if you're only entering like 1 per slate, I know some people have plenty of success, have plenty of fun doing so. I just can't do it, right? Like I gotta give myself more chances at it. But any must-haves, we'll talk about that now. Hey, Luke, hope the emergency is better. It is. Can you help you out with the Discord access? Yeah, I got you. Message me on Patreon, and I'll get back to you after the stream. Absolutely. I got you, the peach. And yeah, you should have access. Nothing should have happened with that. At least on my end, I didn't do anything. So let's get that figured out for you. You're convinced the top players in this field missed the cut on purpose? I don't know about that, right? JT only showed up because he's out of the playoffs, right? The guy's got to get into that top 70. Like Morikawa's not having the best year, right? That's why he showed up. I think they were trying to make the cut. Like they'd be better off at home, kicking their feet up, sipping a few cocktails with Jordan Spieth, right? Instead, he had to go up there to Detroit and all that shit ashy air that they've got up there because of these wildfires and play golf and suck at playing golf. I don't think he did that on purpose. Riot 4.5 birds. Yeah, he's the only one there too. I wish there were more. I was peeking at the underdog board a little bit earlier. Rest of the board sucks, have to say. In terms of DFS, though, for round 3, there's very predictable chalk. I have the same spiel every time we do one of these round 3 streams, and it's not to play the guys at the top of the board. Now, you can see, right, we'll talk about Ricky here in a second, right? There are a few exceptions, right? I am taking a few chalky pieces, but in general, your strategy for round 3 showdown should be to fade the top of the board, right? Because if we go ahead, we sort this by ownership, which I'll go ahead do right now for you guys. You're going to see that all the guys that are the highest owned here are the guys that are towards the top of the leaderboard. So let's go ahead. I've got it sorted now and take a look at it. Ricky, right? Minus 12, one off the lead or whatever it is. Okay. Morikawa, stud towards the top of the board. Auburn, right? Minus 12 towards the top. Taylor Moore, Cam Davis, Aaron Rye, Taylor Pendrith, Adam Hadwin. Now for round 4 showdown, this will be even more so the case, right? Because there's placement points involved, right? You've got to take guys that can finish top 5 or win the golf tournament. But for round 3 showdown, all of that is irrelevant. It does not matter where a guy is on the leaderboard. In fact, what we just looked at showed us there's probably going to be a 0.8 shot advantage to taking the guys that are going off earlier. And I would argue the guys going off really early, I mean, like the first hour of play, like the first 6 groups out there are probably in even better conditions than just a 0.8 shot advantage. So if you're going out there and you're only playing these guys at the top of the board, like a lot of the field is going to, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So when you take a look at the highest owned plays, right, of the top 8, I'm playing one of them right now. That was kind of cherry picking, right? Because, if we were to open that up to the top 10, right, I'm playing 3 of the top 10, but I think you still get the idea there, right? I'm fading most of the top of the board. And we'll talk about Ricky here in a second, but he's like one of the only exceptions to that rule that I'm taking. So if you're going to be sold on somebody that's going to be that mega chalk, just be really sold on them, right? Have a reason for taking them and just, don't be blindly taking the top of the board because you think that they're playing better and that means that they're going to play better for round 3. Because I just tell you one thing, if you haven't played Golf Showdown for a while, or if you're just new to PGA DFS in general, these guys play it completely randomly for 18 holes. Like you'll have some of the best players in the world, right? John Rahm missing the cut a few weeks ago. You'll have performances, just round by round sample sizes that make absolutely no sense. So just like, embrace that, know that that's going to happen. And like I said, fade the top of the board, especially when it comes to ownership. And you're probably going to have a good slate. If there's one piece of chalk I will be indulging in for tomorrow, and I won't be locking him, right? So he's 41% owned. If you're going to get leverage, you pretty much got to lock him. So I'm not really getting leverage there. I'm probably just going to have marginal leverage to the field, something like 50% exposure. But Ricky Fowler is just playing lights out. Like he's not carrying himself with any one category. The irons are there, the putter are there, and this isn't a one tournament thing. This has been a 3-4 month type of thing at this point. So at $10,600, if there's one piece of chalk that I think might be worth eating, it might be Ricky Fowler. On the other end of the spectrum, right? Little counter argument here. He's 41% owned. I mean, that is just ridiculous. I mean, 33% of Morikawa is not much better. Like, don't get me wrong there, but 41% on Ricky just seems especially egregious. So it might come back to burn me, but based on how he's playing, he's like the one guy on the slate that I'll lock into lineups. And then when I'm using Ricky Fowler, I'm going to be especially careful to differentiate myself just a little bit more, right? Maybe take one extra pivot that's going to be sub 5% owned, something like that. And I'll be just fine in those kind of builds. So, and by the way, worth noting, all of my exposure, right, for this player pool is going to be in the $5.71 max. So it's a smaller GPP. I'm entering, 40 lineups into that. I might be 50. I'd have to double check. But that's going to be my exposure for tomorrow. So I am taking some Ricky Fowler. It won't be in every lineup, but he is likely to be my highest exposed player on the slate. I've got Max Homa, MGM. Those are two players that I like as pivots that are going off a little bit earlier. If you're only playing a few lineups, I'd probably fade Ricky, right? If you're only playing like 5 lineups in a big GPP, or you're not like max entering it, you might just want to fade Ricky, right? And just start lineups with like a Max Homa, MGM. Not only are you going to save some salary, but you're also going to box out, especially if you fade Morikawa too, like 3/4 of the field. Just a ridiculous amount of those lineups up top. So like, I don't know, that's something to consider, especially if you're only going with a few bullets, right? You don't have as many lineups, as many combinations to work with. You might want to consider that. I like Jaeger. I really like Brian Harman. First off, Brian Harman, really good with the ball striking to this point. Not so much with the flat stick, has been pretty average to this point over 2 rounds. So I like the fact that he's like a middle tee time. Also, the fact that he's only like 18% owned, which, believe it or not, like for Showdown, like 19% Brian Harman for a 4-round contest, you would be beside yourself. But realize, right, there's only 84 players that made the cut, right? So just a little bit over half. And it's only 84. That's one of the larger numbers we've had for quite some time, right? Normally it's like 70, maybe like 72, 73 guys that make the cut. Because the cut was really close to moving to -5, you had 84 guys make it. So it's still way less than 156, right? So that's why some of the ownership numbers look a little bit higher. You've got the chalk there in Alberg. You also got a little bit of chalk coming in on Cam Davis. So I guess that's a red flag worth pointing out there. Taylor Moore, of course, is chalk, which, I'll just stick to my 4-round exposure there. But I took 25% this week, so I don't feel a need to go out there and chase for round 3 Showdown. Aaron Rye, Hadwin, Shank, all getting ownership as well. This AK range is usually pretty high owned to begin with, especially for Showdown, but especially on this slate. So I don't know. They're not my favorite plays. I'd rather just take maybe Max Homa and Sanjay in a lineup. Maybe even try and squeeze in one of these guys into the lineup as my 3rd man in, and avoid that range altogether, as you can see with my exposure there. Right? I'm not playing really anyone towards the bottom of the AKs. In the 7s, I'm a little bit more bullish. I like Suh going off pretty early. Christian Zainhout, one of the first tee times. I think that's going to be a pretty good situation. You can see his projection is getting a pretty good boost because of that. Same thing with JJ Spawn there at -5. Stevens, Davis, Riley are already pretty good Showdown scorers. And now we get them going off in one of the first groups of the day. So you can see in terms of points per dollar, they're pretty much lapping most of the other players around them when it comes to their projections. And also at just 8% ownership, right? Both are relatively low owned. So I don't know. It's a pretty easy strategy. It's rinse and repeat, right? Go out there, take your low owned, high upside pivots for round 3 and build your GPP lineups. There's just no need to take guys like Dylan Wu and are like double the ownership of like a Lashley, a Sam Bennett, or a Vince Norman. There's no need to take a Callum Turan, who I've already gone like 5 questions about over there on Discord. When you have somebody like Scott Stallings, who's not half as owned, but like, significantly lower owned than what you have there with the Callum Turan. I'm not going to bore you to death with, lineup advice here, but like Higo, high upside player, I've got an eye on. Will Gordon, always a high upside Showdown play I'm getting to. Grayson Sig, he luck boxed his way into making the cut, which was annoying. I was hoping that he'd miss the cut as chalk for GPPs. That would have been ideal, but he chipped in. So now he's going to have a huge weekend because he went out there and he chipped in to make the cut. Wallace, Gerard, they make a shit ton of birdies. Count me in. I'm going off early too, right? Harry Higgs going off early. He makes a bunch of birdies. Really good putter. You got to like that. And then Matthias Schwab. I mean, like, look at his projection, right? He laps almost everyone down here in terms of projection. And once again, a player that makes a lot of birdies and is essentially unowned going off early. So my strategy is real simple. It's essentially just taking the pivots the whole way down the board. And really the only exceptions in terms of ownership are all in like the 8, 9, and 10K range, right? It's the guys at the top of the board that are going to be highly owned by default, right? It's not like they're chalk. I mean, the one guy is chalk, right? Ricky Fowler, highest owned player on the slate. Don't get me wrong, I'm a donkey for playing Ricky Fowler tomorrow, but he's really the only guy I'm taking that's going to be like quote unquote donkey chalk tomorrow. Let's see. Are there stats to find out which front or back nines are playing easier? Yeah, for sure, Antonio. Let me show you. If you bring up Data Golf, they have it right on there. That would be my main advice. So on here, you can not only split it by wave, but over here on the right, they have the front and then the back side. So for today's round, the front played slightly easier than the back. If you split it by wave, it also splits the front and back nine data. And you can see the back nine at least. I should say the PM wave played pretty consistently, but the AM wave, there was a little bit more variance between the two nines. So, yeah, there you go. Hopefully you find that helpful there, boss. And they update that live throughout the round over there on Data Golf, which is super helpful if you're trying to do props. Going out there, especially live betting props in the middle of the round, that is the absolute nuts right there. Is single entry the best if you only make 3 lineups? Yeah, it is. In terms of ROI, in terms of sustainability, absolutely. But I would do 3 different single entries and like 3 different GPPs. I mean, a lot of people out there, right, Hermit, just don't care about going out there, the ROI. They just like enter 3 lineups into the big GPP because they think they're going to take it down, which obviously, right, the odds are not in their favor Let's just get that out there. But yeah, if you're looking at it from like the long-term perspective, definitely single entries. But you could do it. You could do it in the big GPP too. Just know what you're getting yourself into. I'd say that first. What are your thoughts on Marty Dow for round 3? You have a top 40 bet on him. He's a great ball striker. Well, let's take a look at the stats, right, Antonio? I'd say that would be the big thing to keep an eye on for me. Marty Dow, we want to make sure that he's actually hitting the ball well, right? So what's his score? All right, there, -6. The shots gained overall over the first 2 days, he's gaining putting and he's losing on approach. So yeah, no thank you, right? If he was, playing to that baseline, right, gaining on approach and then losing with the putter, I think I would be there with you, but he's not really doing that at this golf tournament. So I think I got to stay away. But yeah, normally I'd be with you there. Any weather tomorrow? Yeah, if you go to the beginning of the stream, you'll be able to get my full take on that. But yeah, it looks like a slight AM wave advantage, but it's not really that big. It's not enough to where you got to go out there. And I'll just show you on here and like change your laps, like only take AM players. I'm definitely going to be favoring those guys, right? They're lower owned. I think that's the bigger thing for me, right? They're lower owned. You get the game theory advantage on them, and they're playing on a course that's like a shot easier than the guys on the PM wave. That seems like a pretty big deal to me. So let's see. Let's bring up the weather. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Most of these models over here are calling for slightly higher winds in the afternoon than the morning. So you can see this one here actually has some rain in the forecast too, which would just be lovely, obviously. Slightly higher winds, especially towards like midday right there. This Medio Blue model, right? Slightly higher wind gusts in the afternoon wave. And then the HRRR. So I would say this is the most reliable of the 4 models. This one's also calling for harder conditions in the afternoon than the morning. So yeah, I think there's going to be a slight edge, but I don't think it's enough to make you only play AM guys. Let me just say that much. I think that you can mix in guys on both waves, and especially guys that are super low owned from the PM, I think are probably worth a few looks. Do I think it's worth your while to play cash contests? Probably not. I'm not a huge cash guy, to be frank with you, man. I like never play cash, like ever. If I play cash, I'm going to let you guys know, and I'll talk about the edge for sure. But just for Showdown especially, I don't see the huge edge, right? For 4-round stuff, I like trying to take guys and go out there and make a cut. That makes a little bit more sense. But for an 18-hole sample size, I just feel like it's a little bit too variant for me. If I was going to play cash for tomorrow, I'd probably focus on maybe not super early tee times, but guys towards the middle of tee times, right? That are maybe getting a slightly easier course. Not the fully easier course, right? Like the guys going off at like, -4, -5, but they're at least playing a little bit better. So like a Homa, maybe a Sanjay in as your second man in, maybe throwing a Alex Smalley in there, or maybe it's a Steven Yeager, right? As your third man in. I feel like that's how I would play cash, but yeah, it's not the kind of edge that I would go out there and actually play cash for. Like I wait for like a huge weather edge to go out there and play cash, which like I said, it's like a slight advantage tomorrow. Or round 4 Showdown. I love round 4 Showdown. Like Sunday Showdown is my shit for cash. That's like the one slate that I'll take down. Would I still take Yeager over Auberg, not considering ownership? Yeah, probably, honestly. Yeah, I think Yeager, until we see a little bit more from Auberg. I was like one of the first people to beat the drum on the kid, right? Don't get me wrong. But Yeager's still a pretty good tour player, right? So, I don't know. I think it's probably 50-50 Jackson. But yeah, I think I would lean Yeager. But that might change after this week, especially when Auberg wins, right? Then that'll be hard to say, especially because Yeager doesn't have a win. Let's go through some of our GPP thoughts. For round 4 Showdown, the only real player that I've got to think about chalk with is if I'm taking Ricky Fowler, right? Because if I'm starting my lineup down here, Homa, Sanjay M, like I'm not going to run into dupes very often. Right? I can't take chalk with all 6 spots, but it's not nearly as big of a problem as if I start with somebody that's like 40-50% owned. So like if I were to start with a Fowler, maybe my second man in is a Sanjay M, right? Because he's $9,200. We can easily afford that. My third man in probably shouldn't be Mega Chalk, right? Probably shouldn't be Adam Schenk. He's going to be nearly 20% owned, right? Probably should be some sort of pivot, right? So for me, if I was going to try and find a third man in, Yeager's probably a good idea, right? Yeager's sub 10% owned, right? He's giving us a lot of the ownership leverage we need. You can definitely play Auberg tomorrow, right? To kind of circle back to that comment, but don't start him in a lineup where you have like 20% owned plus players, right? Up there in the 9 and 10K range. So there's a time and a place for Auberg out there. For me, right, when I'm playing a Ricky Fowler, right, I think Jaeger might be the better sort of fit in that kind of lineup. So those are my thoughts for GPPs. You guys know the idea. My player pool for tomorrow is pretty much contrarian by design, right? With a lot of the players that I'm taking going off early. So I'm not going to have to do anything too crazy when it comes to putting together lineups, other than maybe making sure that my Ricky Fowler lineups are just a little bit more contrarian than some of the rest. In terms of props, I've been waiting to see if we can. By the way, we went off today on props. Hit, I think, all of our prize picks props. Yeah, I think, we had a couple Euros missed because Minwoo Lee couldn't fucking make a 3-foot birdie. Cheers to you, Minwoo. I can't make 3-foot birdie putts either. But I don't get paid millions of dollars to play damn golf, so get your damn shit together. Cheers to you, though, boss. You've won me plenty of money, Minwoo. I had a pretty good day on Underdog, too. We hit a bunch of slips over there, obviously. Hit this one for the Euro Tour. That was pretty nice. And then this was absolutely free. This Cameron Davis prop right here. This Max Homa one, maybe not as free, but he still ended up going out there and hitting for us. So like I said, pretty good day for props. What I'm hoping is that we can get a board. And look at that. Ask and you shall receive. We are on a roll today. Love it. So let's see. Prop board looks the same as before on Underdog. Okay. Let's see what we're working with over here. A bunch of 5.5. Oh boy. They're even more bullish on birdies than what we have on Underdog. You don't see that very often. Let me go ahead and throw that out there. Strokes-wise, looks pretty similar to Underdog. So they're at least kind of on the same page there. But for birdies are better, it looks like they're lower on prize picks. And like I said, you don't see that very often. Normally, it's the other way around. So I don't know. I hate the boards for tomorrow. I absolutely detest them. I didn't like this Underdog board, and I thought that their birdie props were a little bit too high. Prize picks is even worse. So if anything, at 5.5 birdies, like I know it's an easy course. It's moving day. I feel like fades are slightly higher EV. It's horrible to say at a birdie fest like this. It's kind of like the fades for strokes that I took on Underdog from round 1. Like it felt horrible to go out there and fade like JT at 67.5, Homa 67.5, Finau 67.5, Sanjay, so on and so forth. But they all ended up hitting, right? You had guys that went under, like a Morikawa, Ricky Fowler, right, went under those strokes in day 1, but a vast majority went over. It feels like it might be getting to that stage again where they're just posting these guys at lines that they have to have a perfect day to hit. That's what it feels like to go out there and make 6 birdies. You can't just luck sack your way into that. That's not like a 50-50 type of performance. That's like a top 30th percentile, maybe top quarter percentile type of performance to go out there. So let me bring up the actual averages from today. My boy T Swenny, of course, with our prop report, we have that calculated. I mean, the averages were fantastic. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, look at these on here. But 5.5 birdies, like yeesh. That's a steep ask, to say the least. So our birdie average was 25.41, which that equates to 4.57 birdies. So certainly high. In the morning, it was actually closer to like 4.8. In the afternoon, it was a little bit lower. So I'm assuming right closer to like maybe like 4.3 birdies there in the afternoon. Definitely a lot of birdies. But to get to 6 is still, like I said, asking a whole lot. So I don't know. I'm not as bullish as the board is today. That's for sure. Like we printed money today. Might have to get a little creative for tomorrow, boys. It's not just going to be taking all birdies. It's not going to be just taking all unders on strokes like we did today. It was pretty easy to go out there and print for round 2. It's looking like these sports books are, like I said, they're pressing us a little bit, right? They're trying to make it a little bit more complicated on our end, which, hey, we'll take it apart. We'll look at shots gained metrics. We'll find our leans one way or the other. But this is the type of slate where you're not going to find like all overs to take or like all unders to take. You're probably going to have to mix in props of both directions, which is going to make me like this prize picks board quite a bit because you do get boosted payouts, right? Like now, these aren't props that I'm taking. Right? I'm just like randomly selecting these. So please know that, right? Realize that these aren't props that I'm going to go out there and bet. But if I took like 2 overs and 2 unders, right? Again, disregard who the players are. I just literally selected them at random. You get a higher payout, right? You're not just going to get the normal 10x. If we threw in another, I guess, over or under, you also get a higher payout, right? 14.5x or maybe even a 13.5x payout. Those are the kind of slips that you're going to have to enter, right? Where you're taking overs and unders, which on prize picks is a really good thing. It helps you out with your payouts, and it might not be the worst strategy to go after some 4 or 5-man flexes. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. This underdog board, I mean, the birdies are a little bit lower, so I guess you could take advantage. Like Max Homa, right? He's 5.5. I'm assuming over on this side. Did he even? Yeah, he's what, 5.5 birdies? I guess maybe you could take his over 5, but like getting to 6 birdies, it's gonna be tough. Like I said, it's gonna be like a top 25, maybe top 30th percentile kind of performance. And sure, you have the push in your back pocket, which makes me like this one a lot more than what we have here with this 5.5. But that's a tough ask. I just gotta say that. Yeah, birdie a third of the holes is wild. Doable, but wild. Yeah, that's the perfect way to put it. Doable, but wild to have to expect that. Who do I like more, Riley or Stevens in a GPP? Probably Davis Riley. I feel like he's just a little bit more of aggressive, a little bit more of a psycho than what you have with Sam Stevens. And yeah, in round 3 showdown, we need psychos that are going to make a bunch of birdies. So that would be my take with that one. Let's find these pins. So I know we were notified before that we've got pins to work with. So let's do a little deep dive, shall we? Let's bring up Tourcast and let's go through a few of these locations for tomorrow, shall we? All right. If you guys are hopping out of here now, feel free to leave a like on the way out of here. I appreciate all your support here on the channel, obviously. This is going to take us some time to go through pins, so I know for some people it can be a little bit boring, but it's going to be huge for our analysis on the prop side. So if you're a DFS player and you're hopping on out of here, salute. Best of luck out there tomorrow, and let's bring home a GPP, huh? All right, let's take a look at these pins for all the hardos that are playing props and staying around. You guys are the, like I said, the sickos out there like me that are playing props round by round. This is where the real sweats are at, huh? Let's take a look at this. So hole 1, we've got a back right pin, so it'll be back there. It'll play a little bit longer. It was a back pin today, so it's not going to play all that much longer than what you saw today, but you know, kind of like today, let's see, what was the scoring average? It was like 0.1 under par. You had like a 24% birdie rate. It's probably going to be right on that for round 2. It's like the same kind of pin. It doesn't really look all that much easier, all that much more challenging. Let's see, hole number 2. Hole 2, back left pin is 4 paces off the left side. Oh, okay, so it's still in hole 1, sorry. I was like, it looks like the same spot. All right, so it's back here in the back left. This is, once again, another back pin. I don't know. You got a little bit of a backstop right over there to the back right, but it's kind of looking like a slightly harder hole than what you saw today. So it only played slightly under par for round 2. It probably plays right around that right there for round 3. Let's look at hole 3 now. Hole 3 is a front right pin. It's like 9 paces on, though, so it's like a good ways onto the green. So it's going to be like right here, which this looks like an easier pin than round 2. It's a lot shorter than the pin that we saw today, and it's wide open, right? It doesn't look like it's going to be all that difficult. So yeah, let's say pin number 3 looks pretty easy. You're going to see a bunch of birdies there. Hole 4 is your long par 5. It's going to play even longer tomorrow. Looks like a pretty accessible pin. I'd have to say if you like miss over here to the right, you could probably get it up and down. You miss over here to the left side, you can probably get it up and down too. So, I mean, I don't think many people are going to get it green side and 2. So I guess that's the issue, right? It's a 600-yard par 5. But with a wedge, you definitely have enough room to get it close. So you'll see birdies there, but it's definitely not a cupcake unless it's playing directly downwind. Hole 5 is a front left pin. This is a short par 3, and you got a little bit of a backstop there. So I think that'll be an easy pin. That probably plays significantly easier than today. Hole 6, we've got a back right. It's not a long hole, but it's not a short hole. And you've got a little bit of a false front in front of it, right? Where you've got this little drop-off area, little 2-tier action to the screen going on. That one's going to be a little bit tough. Now, it's only like 450 yards. So it's not like it's going to play over par, but definitely a little bit tricky. Hole 7's a back right pin. It's a par 5. It's going to play very similar to today. It's like the same level in the green, same depth, and yeah, no real defense. That's another easy hole, but yeah, no real difference there. See, hole number 8 is like right here. Oh, this one's all messed up. We'll get off this green here in a second, but it's Let's see if I can zoom in. It's like right here where my cursor's circling around up there. You've got enough room to get there. Let's see, what do these slopes look like? It keeps messing up there. It looks pretty flat. Okay. I would say that's probably going to play pretty easy. Maybe they even move up the tee box at 8 and let guys try to drive it. That's something that I want to keep an eye on. So when I'm looking at the tee boxes early, right after the first like half an hour of play tomorrow, I'm going to be keeping an eye on hole number 8 because they might move that up. And if they do, it's going to play a lot easier, right? So that's not something they're going to tell us beforehand, but something that you're going to have to check yourself. Hole 9's the front right. Yeah, this will play a lot easier. It'll play shorter, and you've got a bowl to work with. So 9, that is a good old moving day pin. Hole number 10's a back pin. Something tells me this one's a little bit more difficult. Yeah. Hole 10, definitely going to be a little bit tricky there on the back right. Hole 12, sorry, we're on hole 11. Getting ahead of myself. Got a little front right pin action, kind of close to the bunker over here. It's a 200-yard hole to begin with. That hole's going to suck unless they move the pin on tee box up, which again is something they do here for round 3. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I'm assuming that they're not going to. If that's the case, hole 11 probably plays pretty hard. Hole 12 is a front left pin. What am I doing? That looks pretty straightforward. It's a long hole, though, so probably not a lot of birdies at 12. Hole 13 is a front left pin over that way. A little bowl action you can see behind it. Little slope actually pushing towards the hole. So, yeah, it's a short hole. There's going to be a lot of birdies there. Let's see. Hole 14 is tucked near the water. That feels a little bit difficult, but it also gives you a lot of room to chip and get up and down. So unlike hole number 4, right, that was like 630 yards. This one, you could easily hit it up greenside in 2, right? You have all these bleachers, all these grandstands to hit balls off of, right? And just hit the ball up there near the green, and then all the room to get up and down from. So I don't know. It kind of looks tough because it's near the water. I actually think I might play easier there for tomorrow's round. Hole 15 is a back right pin. Yeah, that's pretty easy. It's only like 150 yards. So that one looks pretty wide open. Hole 16 is a back left pin. Yeah, that one also looks pretty wide open too. So that one's not too bad. And then hole 17 is like a back middle pin. I mean, look at this thing. It's like 12 paces off the left. Just say it's a middle pin, right? Like, what the heck? I mean, that's a par 5. That's probably going to be really easy. You have a lot of room on either side if you miss greenside in 2. And that one is definitely reachable. So kind of like what you saw there for, what was it, I guess 14? Same kind of thing, right? You should be able to get up and down. And then the hole 18, we've got a front pin over here, which is also pretty easy. You've got this backstop to the right side, a little false front action, which I guess could kind of screw you if you spin one off the green. But yeah, it's going to play shorter, and then you've got a little backstop to work with. So I have to imagine that that's going to help them at that hole. So in terms of pins, there's some easy ones. There's some difficult ones. I'd say it's probably not going to have a massive impact on my projections when it comes to it because there was a good mix of right easy and hard holes. Strokes-wise, though, I do feel like there's some tricky spots. I feel like there are some ticking time bombs to be had, right? A couple, tucked pins near water. Hole number 11 looks like an absolute bear, for example. Hole 9, right, for that matter, right, doesn't look that easy. I feel like strokes overs on like a Kirk, like feels like a great example of a player that I would take an over on, might be the move. We'll have to check. What do they got Kirky boy at over here? They got him at the same projection, 68.5. I don't know. We'll have to look at the shots gained. We'll have to figure it out. Kirky went out there. He cashed us on our slips today. That was for damn sure. But I don't know if I can go to him tomorrow. It feels like, I don't know. It feels like there's an overreaction being had here, especially on prize picks. Like 5.5 birdies. I know these are elite tier players, but like, come on. Like, it's Keegan Bradley. Like, he's got to birdie a third of his holes. Like, that just seems crazy. Like 5 for Pendrith seems way high. I mean, Adam Hadwin is like non-elite tier birdie maker. And I don't know what to do with this. I like that Bennett's at 4.5. I'm liking what I'm seeing there. I don't hate Dylan Wu. Guy makes a bunch of birdies. Yeesh. Yeah, I think if you're going to take any overs, guys, it's going to be these overs at 4.5. You're probably going to have to take a look at. And then some fades, especially over here in prize picks. Underdog, like I said, probably some overs and unders that you could take over here. But I don't know. It's not my favorite board. We'll leave it at that. It feels like a tough one to go out there and smash for tomorrow. Let's see what we've got. You put in a shit ton of work, brother. Thank you sincerely. Of course, David. Appreciate the support. Appreciate you stopping by. Best of luck. After 2 rounds, do I think bombers or shorter hitters have the advantage? A lot of bombers at the top, right? But there is a good mix. There's always a good mix at this golf tournament. I would say the one thing you have to have, Antonio, is you have to be a good putter, like no matter what. And then outside of that, it's a little bit more wide open, right? You can get there by being a really good approach player, right? Hitting some darts. You saw that with like Morikawa. You've seen the bomb and gouge approach too, like the going out there Taylor Pendrith approach, going out there and just smashing the ball a mile. I mean, let's look at this leaderboard, right? Let's sort it by score here. Moore hits it an absolute mile. Ludberg, absolute mile. Shank, Rye, same thing. Cameron Davis, Sepp Straka. But then, like you said, right, you've got the Fowlers, you've got the Morikawas, you've got the Lowers of the world, the Adam Hadwins, pretty short players, and then a lot of bombers. So the one thing that they all have in common, though, which let me find the live stats here. All right. Tournament stats, is that it? Yeah, live stats. Okay, here it is, right? And look at the top of the board and their putting numbers. Like there's just most of them are going off with the flat stick, right? And I think when we check at the end of the week, the top 10, the top 5 is going to be almost all players that went out there and gained a bunch of strokes at the putter. Let's look at the event, by the way. If you sort this by the round 2, right? Not all the guys at the top gained strokes putting, but if we sort this by the event, literally all of them up there in the top 15, I guess except for Callum Turan, are gaining with the flat stick. Every single player up there in the top 15, but one is gaining with the putter through 2 rounds. That's the one thing that you have to have, right? There's other stats, right, there where there are guys that are losing, right, up there in the top 10, not with the flat stick. I mean, even Auburn, right, gaining with the putter. But even Morikawa, right, is gaining with the putter over the first 2 days. Keep that in mind. That's a key contributor in that. That's for sure. Let's see. What else do we got to work with? Has anyone seen Arrows? Yeah, he's been in chat, bro. I think you're just missing him down there. You took Homa, Bradley, and then sprinkled in Im and Rye. I'm assuming that's for birdies, right? Lots of push equity at 5. Yeah, there is. Just feels like the over equity. I don't know if it makes up for it. It's a tough board. I don't know if I'm going to play a whole lot for at least PGA tomorrow. I feel like with the Euro board, I might be able to get some value, especially if I do some research into that. They've got guys at 3.5 birdies again. Strokes, they've got a whole board up for that. And then, of course, we've got Live, where we got a whole round of data now to go off of on Live. I was able to peek at some of the broadcasts today. I didn't get to watch the whole thing yet, so I'll likely go later on and actually watch the recording of that. But I think there's some value to be had outside of PGA. So I don't know. Yeah, definitely. If you're going to take anything, I would lean overs for sure. But I don't know, maybe for strokes overs, though, too. Like birdie or better overs, definitely. But it feels like there's some sort of overreaction going on here. Like the scoring average is 200 par. It's a 70. You're still asking guys like Chris Kirk to gain 2 strokes to the field. I mean, it just feels like a little bit too much. Maybe I'm wrong. Guess we'll see tomorrow. All right, let's see. What do we got on Underdog in terms of the other slates? We've got got these posted. Let me just show you guys this. Take a look at the wind we've got for this golf tournament. So this is where the golf tournament is at, I believe. Yeah, the Belfry Golf Course, right? So this is the golf course we're working with this week. Look at this forecast in the bottom left for tomorrow. 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, 32-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and this isn't even the worst projections. Look at this one. I've never seen this purple color before. 38-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I feel like we have to fade some players. I feel like, especially because, like, look at the winds early. They're like 28 miles an hour, like as soon as the day starts. Pretty much whatever model you're looking at, they're calling for a butt-fuck ton of wind tomorrow. So over here in Underdog, Minwoo completely fucked me today. Do I go out there and fade him again tomorrow? I feel like it's not the worst idea. 4 birdies. Do they have anyone else at 4? No, right? Because then you start to get into the Live down here at the bottom. All right, we'll take a look at Live in a second. But especially Justin Rose, who goes off late and is, I guess, going to be playing in like 38-mile-an-hour winds, might not be the worst idea for a fade. The unfortunate part with Underdog is that they have all of them locking at the same time. So we can't like wait until like half the guys play in the morning at like 3, 4 a.m. to see how the course is playing. Or else I trust me, I'd wake up at like 5 a.m. I'd set an alarm and go out there and do so, because it feels like it's going to play very difficult, right? With all the wins, unless they go out there, shorten the course a shit ton and give them cupcake pins. Right? That's the only way to combat that sort of thing. So I'm kind of scared about them doing that, right? They'll go out there, they'll course proof it from time to time, make courses easier than they should be when it gets windy. So that's the only concern there, because I mean, with this forecast, you'd have to think that a lot of guys are going to struggle out there. So maybe it's not birdies, maybe it's over on strokes. It's a par 72, if I remember correctly. Let's see. We can figure it out here on Data Golf. They've got everything here. Yeah, it's a par 72. So you'd be hoping that Rose, right, doesn't shoot better than -1. Doesn't feel like the worst bet, honestly. Let's see. Who else do we got that's going off late that I know is towards the lead? I know Rosner is, but they've got him at 71.5. So you'd have to shoot even par or worse. It's probably not the worst bet. Where's Romain Langesque? Is he at the top of the board? Yeah, he's like, what, -3, so he's going off pretty late. Like, if it feels like fades for Euro might be a gold mine tomorrow. So I'm going to have to do some more research. I'm going to have to go ask a few guys that I know really know the European Tour to see if they make courses too easy, right, when conditions get difficult like this. If I get the go-ahead, right, get the, clear signal to go out there and nuke those, that might be something worth watching. In terms of live, let's bring up that. Is it not on there anymore? We had it on here yesterday. It was like Santa Dore, right? That was the name of the wind tower. Not coming out. Anyone knows where this golf tournament is for the live? I know it's at Valderrama. I just don't know what wind tower to bring up. And obviously on stream, kind of hard to find. I was looking at it earlier. The weather, obviously, it can change. It looked a little bit nasty, but it didn't look like it does at Euro, right? I mean, it was concerningly high winds, but it wasn't like 40-mile-an-hour winds. Let's see. Check the week-long community contest. You had the nuts that ended up getting shafted. Let's do it. Let's take a look at it. Let me bring up the contest. I know it's over here on Draftkings somewhere. I can't mush myself and show you guys my lineups that are in the top 100 right now, because that's how mushes work. It does not usually go well. Let's see. There we go. It was easy enough to find. Let's see what's going on, Swenny. I'm assuming you're in first, or at least close to first. Oh, yeah. Sick lineup, by the way, for me. You guys knew about that yesterday, though. I was talking shit about these guys that had no chance to make the cut. Turns out they had no chance to make the cut. At least Hostler tried, right? Hostler at least tried to get me a 4 of 6. These two were doomed from the start. You're in third place, and you had who screwed you? What was it again? You ended up getting shafted. Let's see. Yeah, Finau just sucks at golf. And then Nick Hardy over there, -2. Yeah, I like Pendrith, by the way. 1.7% owned. So you were the only one that took him there. What a play there. Cam Davis, 3.3%. Yeah, if just Tony or Hardy makes the cut, you're probably taking this down. Is there any 6 of 6s? Yeah, Provincial, by the way, shout out to you. You had a 6 of 6 in our contest. And I think that was it, right? It was like a 1% 6 of 6 rate. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, that's the only 6 of 6 there. So, yeah, you guys are playing against Provincial there. He's probably got the upper hand on you in terms of simulations and stuff like that. But who knows? Maybe your 4 of 6 will bank. Maybe Taylor Moore will win. Maybe Pendrith will finish in second. They'll get a third out of Cam Davis or something like that. I've seen crazier things happen. Are there any matchups I like? You're falling asleep watching your Pirates-Brewers game. Pirates-Brewers, oh boy. I remember watching those over there at PNC Park when I was going to Pitt. Those games, yeah, they put me to sleep. I can be there with you. Let's take a look at them, I guess. We'll look at rivals. We'll look at these matchups too. I don't usually love matchups, so there most likely isn't going to be much there I'm seeing. But you're looking for, especially like the opponents, sometimes Prize Picks will post matchups with just really shitty golfers. Like guys you can just like try and blatantly take advantage of. Like Andrew Landry, for example, is complete dog shit. And he's not the opponent, right? He's the headliner in this matchup. Of any of the ones that I just went through there, man, I would bet the under on Landry, because like Landry sucks at golf. And I think that at least if I'm right here, which I think I am, let's double check this. I'm pretty sure that Malnati's going off a lot earlier. than what you have in Landry. Because I know Landry's -10, right? Landry's like later half of tee times. That guy's playing pretty well. Let's see when, I guess Malnati's at 15th. That short bucket hat wearing dude going out there smashing this week. You love it. I love Malnati. Playing pretty much every single week. So it's not really the tee time advantage. It's just more so that he's a better player than Andrew Landry. So I would rather take that side. So yeah, that's the main one that stands out for me. I don't know if I'm going to bet it myself because, again, I hate these matchups. But I guess like Harman versus Norn, I guess I don't hate Harman there. Maybe going against Satoshi is not the worst idea. Let's see what we got for these rivals, which I like always forget to look at over here in PGA. And I guess they don't have them up yet. But yeah, if they post them there later on, that'd be cool. Let's see. Oh, they've got live matchups up. Okay. I could get behind that. Now, these all kind of suck, but in theory, I could have gone around it. Actually, Brooks versus Mito. Okay. I might be tempted to bite on that. They've got some Euro matchups here. Honestly, I don't know the Euro Tour enough to really bet these. Unless there's guys that I know that are matched up against each other. I know Olison's pretty good, and I don't know who this Muller guy is. So by default, I feel like I'd want to take Olison, but who knows? Wilco Nine Neighbor hits the ball 400 yards, kid's a stud. Wow, look at all these damn rivals they have up for Euro, yet they don't post any of these guys for birdies or better. That's wild. So there's probably some value on there, you have to think, right? They're not comfortable to post like birdie projections for all these guys, yet they're posting all of these rivals matchups. And from what I can tell, it feels like they're probably like the same tee times, like most of these players. Like I know these two are. What if that's just how they do them? They just like take the same tee times and they're putting these guys together. If anyone down here is like a big Euro guy, right, watching Euro Tour every week, take a look at these rivals matchups, especially if you're in the Discord, you're over there in the Patreon, and let me know what you're seeing because I feel like what they did with this is they took like a few select matchups and they just like threw them together at random. I mean, I could be wrong, right? They could be great matchups for all I know, but just based on the lack of props that they're posting for Euro, I can't think that they have guys that are like Euro Tour specialist on their payroll. I really can't see that. We might end the stream there. Like I said, I got to do a lot more research before I fire in anything, at least for a stream slip. You know, that birdie or better matchup, I don't think is the worst idea. You could toss that in. Before, right, I talked about the Sam Bennett over. I'm almost assuredly going to play that. So for a stream strip on Prize Picks, you could go with that. I'm going to wait to enter it myself. And then, and actually, I'll just show you guys. I literally can't enter it myself. Like, even if I wanted to go out there and play this slip, I'll just show you what'll happen. Even if I want to play $20 on it, as little as possible, right? My maximum amount is $500 for the day. So I'm screwed. Can't do it to begin with. So we'll move on from that. Over here on Underdog, that rivals matchup between Brooks and who was it? Mito Pereira. Like that seems like a pretty decent prop. And then if you were going to go with any of just like the regular props, try and throw anything in. I mean, the birdies for Prize Picks were a lot higher than what we had in Underdog, right? So it feels like there's at least some value to maybe taking like a Homa over at 5 to, I guess, like even a Cam Davis over at 5, right? He's at 5.5 on Prize Picks. I know Keegan's at 5.5. I probably wouldn't take him though, right? Because he's been putting way over his head. Like Keegan's going to come back down to earth at some point. Those would be what I'm going with. But based on what I'm looking at right now, it really is looking like Euro Live Tour stuff, right? Especially, and those are going off at like 6, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Even earlier for some of the Euro stuff might be what we really focus on. So it's unfortunate, is what it is. Sometimes the pricing for PGA just isn't all that great. Let's see, greens regulation might be unders here. Actually, I take that back. Some unders and greens might not be horrible. And then, yeah, same thing on fairways. These are way too high. The average at this course, right, just to tell you why I'm saying these are way too high, the average for this course is like 9 fairways per round this week, and that's including the soft conditions. That's accounting for that. And then for greens and regulation, it's like 13 greens, right? And that's with these super wet conditions. So like they have everyone priced above 13.5. So I'm sure at least a handful of those guys are going to go under. So I don't know. We'll have to look at the approach stats. If I'm going to take an under on a player, right, I want it to be somebody that's losing with their approach play over the first 2 rounds. So I'll be looking for that. And then with the fairways hit one, right, I'm a little bit longer term with the fairways hit stuff. I'll be looking at season averages, right, trying to find guys that are priced probably up here at like 9.5 fairways that aren't historically very accurate off the tee. And just like looking at this now, like I'm going to have to look at Dylan Wu and like Taylor Moore's driving accuracy. I feel like they're not that guy. Like Sam Bennett, like I feel like he's not that accurate. Obviously, he's got way too small of a sample to go off of. But I'm going to do some research on it, see what we're looking at there. So best of luck out there, though. We're going to end the stream there. Been going for an hour at this point. Best of luck out there with your round 3 lineups. Hopefully you can go out there, take home a GPP if you're playing that, cash lineups if that's your sort of thing, and of course, take home a few prop slips as well. If you're wondering what my exposure will be for tomorrow in terms of props, make sure to check out the Patreon. On there, I post all of my exposure, also all of the showdown sheets that you see in my content, main slate stuff on there too, of course. So check all of that out on the Patreon page, and let's have ourselves a day tomorrow. What happened to Sam Bennett today? Hey, he didn't have a good round. I'm glad I didn't play him today. That's for damn sure. Soto Grand, that's the name of the wind tower. Sweet. I'll be able to bring that up here in a second. Is there any value to betting under 68.5? No, I don't think so. Like I feel that doesn't feel like very good value. How do I join the Discord? You join the Patreon and then you message me on Patreon and I'll send you an invite. DP World Tour overs seem nice for sure. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You think Liv has some mispriced birdie matchups. So, okay, I'll take a look at those afterwards. And that's it, boys. Catch you later. Best of luck, and I'll see you guys for the